Naina experiences a complex mix of emotions when she reflects upon the day her best friend, Meghan Markle, married her eternal love 6 years ago. Meghan was a 30-year-old actress riding high on the success of the first season of the American TV drama series Suits, when she bound herself to love and cherish film producer Trevor Engleson in a beautiful ceremony on a Jamaican beach, witnessed by over 100 guests. The colonial-style hotel exuded jubilation during those days of celebration. However, fast forward 6 years, the marriage has ended, and Meghan is now engaged to Prince Harry. Many of her friends who celebrated with the newlyweds on that beach are no longer in touch with Meghan Markle. Nikki, in particular, mentioned that her falling out with Meghan stemmed from disapproval of how Meghan ended her relationship with Trevor. Nikki also reminisced about Meghan's graduation celebration from Northwestern University in 2003 when Meghan and her friend ventured out for a night in Chicago. Meghan was one of those people who tried to take a picture with a handsome stranger at a bar, hoping to capture their attention and possibly date them in the future. This behavior made Nikki uncomfortable, and she felt that Meghan was being intrusive and pushy, particularly when it came to the bar's good-looking bartender. Meghan's friends had advised her to stop bothering him, but Meghan seemed persistent, leaving everyone puzzled as to why she wouldn't let it go. There really isn't much to observe here. I'm not engaging in body shaming, but Meghan doesn't have a curvaceous figure. It's just not her body type. Yet, at times, she chooses to wear outfits that suggest she's trying to exude a sense of allure, emphasizing something that's simply not there. In the past, it seemed like she had a tendency to get quite close to guys, not necessarily boyfriends or husbands, and this was evident in photos. There's even one where she's seen sitting on a wealthy man's lap in the presence of his wife. Then there was that odd incident when Meghan hopped into a Ford Explorer Sport, driven by a stranger to take some photos. She claimed it was her car and entered through the driver's door. Now, this car was from the late 90s or early 2000s. And it's a bit absurd that Meghan tried to make it her own. Anyone who owned one of these vehicles back then, like me and many others, would know that it was nearly impossible to lift the rear hatch, which was quite heavy. I rarely opened it myself because it was such a struggle, and you had to practically hoist yourself up to close it. Meghan and I are about the same height, and the hatch on mine reached up to my chest. Moreover, there was nothing inside to grip onto. Maybe initially, she received some positive responses to these actions, and they became part of her humorous storytelling. However, most people tend to overlook such details, and not many are deeply invested in these incidents. It does seem like Meghan tries to present herself as the embodiment of the American dream princess. That seems to be the overarching theme, and everything she does is filtered through that lens. The Duke of Edinburgh attended a special evening song at St. George's Chapel in Windsor to commemorate King Charles' ascension to the throne. This event coincided with September 8th, which marked both the first anniversary of King Charles' reign and the passing of the late Queen Elizabeth II. Upon the announcement of the previous monarch's passing, King Charles immediately assumed the throne. Photography was not allowed at the service as per the tradition regarding the reigning monarch's events. It's worth noting that the Duke of Edinburgh's brother also holds a place in the line of succession, albeit further down, with the king's immediate family and grandchildren taking precedence. Since the Queen's passing, Prince Edward has taken on additional responsibilities and roles. He is overseeing the overall ceremony, along with the participation of Princess Anne. The Duke of Edinburgh previously held titles such as Colonial-in-Chief of the Royal Dragon Guard and Colonial-in-Chief of the Queen's Royal Hussars. In the next 2 weeks, it is anticipated that the Duke will assume the Commonwealth Youth role. In the meantime, Prince Harry, who had briefly returned to the UK, spent just 23 hours in the country. His visit included attendance at the World Child Awards in London before he was seen in Windsor to pay tribute to his late grandmother on the first anniversary of her passing. On the same date last year, the late Queen had dined at Balmoral. Her passing marked the beginning of King Charles' reign. Sources reveal that senior members of the royal family took measures to ensure there were no clashes with unwelcome events during King Charles' reign. On this occasion, King Charles, accompanied by a small group of Balmoral guests, including the late Queen's niece and nephew, Lady Sarah Chateau and the Earl of Snowdon, arrived at the private memorial service shortly before 10 a.m. The king, aged 74 and dressed in a red tartan kilt, appeared solemn as he sat beside the Queen, who, at 76, held a small bouquet. Accompanying the Earl were his daughter, Lady Margarita Armstrong-Jones, while Lady Sarah attended with her husband Daniel and their children, Samuel and Arthur. On this day dedicated to celebrating the king, the royals couldn't help but find it bittersweet. Exactly 1 year ago, the world received the somber news of the late Queen's passing at Balmoral, when she was 96 years old. The king chose to stay at Balmoral, where he had spent the past few weeks. Both the king and Queen Camilla shared a touching image of the late Queen on their social media platforms. Their caption marked the first anniversary of the late Majesty's death and the king's ascension, paying homage to her long life of devoted service and her profound impact on many. The king also took a moment to express his gratitude to the public for their support over the past year, reaffirming his commitment to continued service. He said, "I'm deeply grateful to those who have shown love and support to my wife and myself during this year as we strive to serve you all." Prince Charles and Princess Camilla, the Prince and Princess of Wales, paid their own tribute to the late Queen and reflected on her enduring legacy through a social media post. They wrote, "Today, we remember the extraordinary life and legacy of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. We all miss you." Princess Eugenie, one of the late Queen's 8 grandchildren, also took a moment to publicly honor her beloved grandmother. She shared an endearing image of herself with the late Queen, accompanied by heartfelt words. Eugenie expressed, "Thinking of you today, missing you so much. But we remember the life of service, love, and dedication you gave to everyone. To your family who love you dearly, forever grateful for you, and you'll always be in our hearts." The king, aged 74 and wearing a red tartan kilt, had a solemn demeanor as he sat beside the Queen, who was 76 years old and held a small posy. Accompanying the Earl were his daughter, Lady Margarita Armstrong-Jones, and Lady Sarah, who was joined by her husband Daniel, along with their children, Samuel and Arthur. This day was not just a celebration for the king. It carried a bittersweet undertone. Exactly 1 year ago today, the world received the news of the late Queen's passing at Balmoral. She had departed at the age of 96. The king chose to remain at Balmoral, where he had spent the past few weeks. He and Queen Camilla shared a touching image of the late Queen on various social media platforms. The caption accompanying that image read, "In marking the first anniversary of the